Welcome to the stage, Brittney.
Thank you.
It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Is this your first ISHI?
It is.
Your very first
Yep.
ISHI. And what brought you here to ISHI 35?
I have a presentation tomorrow, so I do.
Could you tell me a little bit about what you're going to be speaking on?
So I am talking about the probative value of non-traditional evidence. So we kind of looked at cases from a full year of sexual assaults and investigated what samples produce the most usable profiles for comparison purposes and for CODIS upload. And we found that dried stain swabs from various areas of the victim's body actually have produced better profiles than your traditional oral, anal, vaginal swabs that might have seminal material. So our lab is kind of moving away from serology, and in doing so, we discovered that we're still having very good success with pulling CODIS profiles from the evidence that we have. So instead of focusing on the presence of seminal material, we're focusing more on intimate samples, so areas of the body that wouldn't be normally interacting with anyone else other than a potential suspect. So that's
I
what
can
my
see how
task-
that might benefit a person who is surviving such a situation. If you didn't have to go to them for that kind of information, that would be helpful, I would imagine.
Yep.
And so where do you work at? Where are you coming to us from?
I'm from the Cuyahoga County Regional Forensic Science Lab in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. And what in the world brought you to this point in your life? Like, how did you decide to become a part of the forensics world? Influence.
I was a CSI kid in 6th grade, and ever since liked forensics. So, yeah, my science fair project in 6th grade was like blood spatter patterns. People thought I was like some emo, crazy kid, and made blood in my kitchen with my mom and put it on some black poster board and presented. And yeah, I've just been kind of focused on forensics ever since.
That's amazing. I would have given you an A on that project.
I think everyone got a blue ribbon back then, but yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So then you went on to school, and then how did you decide to go to work in the place that you've decided to go?
So I actually got to shadow there through high school. We did like a program just to help decide before college, like what you want to do. So I was fortunate enough to shadow where I work now, and then I went on to undergrad, got my degree in biology, and then I was getting my master's in forensics through the distance learning program in Florida, and actually met a girl that I work with now, and she was the one that kind of encouraged me to apply. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna wait until I have forensics on my resume. And she's like, you're doing everything that we do, but in the clinical side, you should really apply. And I applied, and I've been there for 10 years now.
And here you are. And back to your study, where did the inspiration for that study come from? Like, was somebody out there in the field saying that this is something that we wish that would be looked at, or who came up with that?
Well, it was actually interesting. When we decided to move away from serology, we kind of thought we'd be shooting ourselves in the foot and having to go back and do second rounds of testing. But then we actually found we weren't, and we're instead just uploading profiles from like breast swabs or inner thigh swabs versus having to search for semen positive samples. So it was just kind of like a trend we noticed. And then my boss and I talked, we're like, well, let's go through a year and see what we find, and it was kind of interesting.
That is interesting. So were you going back to samples that were already done before, right?
Yeah, so I just picked 2023 and went through all 425 of those cases, and that's what I...
spectacular. Yeah. So you tested all those 425 cases? Like
my lab did. So I went back and reviewed the reports and then collected my data from that.
Yeah, that's spectacular. That's very neat. Where do you think that the world of genetics and forensics is going to go from here? Like in your laboratory, do you have anything on the horizon or different ways of doing things?
We are looking to kind of move away from serology just to kind of speed things up, and I think a lot of people are kind of more just focusing on DNA foreign to the victim or foreign to whatever, and especially in sexual assault cases, male DNA, and kind of changing the lingo in our reports, and that's kind of where we are right now. So another reason my boss thought it'd be kind of interesting to evaluate the reports and what our results were. So
yeah, because in the end, what matters is that you get that hit, right?
Right.
You get that DNA profile.
That profile.
So where you got it from is not quite as important, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's very interesting. That's so exciting. So being here at ISHI, have you had an interaction with anyone that you feel like is going to be helping you in your future?
Yeah, I mean, the first workshop was all about like testifying, and I've only been testifying for maybe the last 2 years, so I felt like that was very informative, and I have 2 trials next week that I'm like taking notes. I'm like, sweet, I'm gonna be all set for next week now. And then I met some other people that use the same interpretation software as us, so that was fun to kind of like chit chat with and compare notes. So overall, having a very great experience at my first conference here.
That's spectacular. Hopefully you'll visit us again.
I hope so.
In ISHI 36.
I hope
oh my
so.
gosh, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me.
Absolutely.
That's great, and good luck with everything that you got going on.
Thank you.